Before he became the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama was a prince who had never seen suffering. But when the veil of illusion finally fell, he abandoned his wealth and his family in search of an answer to his suffering. More than 2,500 years ago, beneath a fig tree in northern India, and after many nights in meditation, he claimed to have awakened to the true nature of existence. His teachings would outlive empires and shape the lives of millions. This is the story of the Buddha. The story of the Buddha's life began even before his birth. Long ago in ancient India, Queen Maya lay sleeping. As she dreamed, a white elephant with 6 tusks appeared before her. Slowly, it entered her side. The next morning, she told her husband the king about the dream. Disturbed and fascinated by its meaning, the king summoned the wise men and sages of his court. After hearing the queen's vision, they delivered a prophecy that a child would soon be born, and that child would either become a great king or a great spiritual teacher who would change the world forever. Sometime later, Queen Maya travelled towards her parents' home to give birth. Along the way, she stopped to rest in the gardens of Lumbini, a garden filled with trees and singing birds. There, while standing beneath the branches of an Ashoka tree, she gave birth to a son. He was named Siddhartha Gautama, meaning he who achieves his aim, descendant of the Gautama clan. Some traditions say that moments after being born, the infant prince stood upright and took 7 steps. And with each step, lotus flowers bloomed beneath his feet. At the 7th step, he pointed one hand to the sky and the other to the earth, declaring his supreme status and the end of his cycle of rebirth. Soon after the prince's birth, an old sage travelled to the royal palace to see the child. But after studying the infant carefully, the sage began to weep. The sage explained that his tears were not for the child. This boy, he said, would one day become a fully awakened being, a teacher who would reveal the deepest truths of existence to the world. The sage knew he would not live long enough to hear those teachings for himself, and continued to weep. The king, however, did not want his son to become a holy man. He wanted Siddhartha to become king. He asked the sage how such a fate could be prevented, and after a pause, the sage replied, "If the prince never sees suffering, he may never seek liberation." So the king built a walled life for Siddhartha, designed to hide the suffering of the world. Through his young life, Siddhartha was surrounded by luxury and beauty. Palace walls separated him from the outside world. Only the young, healthy, and beautiful were allowed near him. Even dying flowers were removed from the gardens before the prince could ever see them wilt. But despite the riches surrounding him, Siddhartha was different, unmoved by the grandeur of his life. He eventually married a beautiful princess, yet even surrounded by love and royal luxury, the prince felt restless. Something about life inside the palace felt incomplete. Eventually, Siddhartha asked permission to leave the palace and see the city beyond its walls. Reluctantly, the king agreed, but first he ordered the streets cleared of all suffering. The old were hidden away, the sick removed and the dying concealed. But despite every attempt to protect him, reality could not be hidden forever. On Siddhartha's first journey outside the palace, he saw an old man bent with age, trembling as he walked. "What's wrong with him?" Siddhartha asked. His charioteer, Channa, replied quietly, "There is nothing wrong with him, my prince. He is simply old." Channa explained that old people, no matter who they were, would one day grow old. Siddhartha was shaken and quickly returned to the palace. The next day, on another journey, he encountered a man consumed by disease. Channa explained disease too is a reality of life, which no one can escape. And on the 3rd day, he saw a corpse being carried through the streets while mourners wept around it. For the first time in his life, Siddhartha understood everything he loved would one day wither and die. Youth would fade, beauty would vanish, life itself was fragile. On his final trip, Siddhartha encountered something new, a wandering monk, unmoved by the chaos of the world. China explained that this man has abandoned worldly life in search of freedom from suffering. Something stirred inside the prince. Returning to the palace, he learned his wife had given birth to their son. Still, Gautama was unmoved. Waking during the dead of the night from troubled sleep, with visions of the old, sick and dying in his dreams, Gautama was shocked by seeing his beautiful female servants lying around like corpses, drooling and contorted, snoring loudly. No longer the beautiful people he was always surrounded by, it was yet another break from the illusion of his royal life. At the age of 29, Siddhartha had made his decision. He looked upon his wife and his son one final time, and left for the stables. Accompanied by Chana and his horse, he rode out beyond the palace gates and into the darkness. In the forest, Siddhartha removed his royal jewelry, cut his hair, and exchanged his silks for the robes of a wandering ascetic. Siddhartha studied meditation under spiritual teachers. He mastered profound states of concentration and discipline, yet found no freedom from suffering. He joined five ascetics who believed liberation could only be achieved through extreme self-denial. Siddhartha starved himself. Day after day, he survived on almost nothing. His body wasted away until he became little more than skin and bone. Awakening did not come. Then one day, after nearly drowning while attempting to bathe in the river, Siddhartha realized something profound. Neither luxury nor self-torture could lead to freedom. Both were extremes. What was needed was another way, a middle path. As he rested beneath the trees, a village girl approached him and offered him a bowl of milk rice. Siddhartha accepted, and strength slowly returned to his body. But when the five ascetics saw him eat, they felt betrayed. To them, Siddhartha had abandoned the path. They believed he had given up his spiritual struggle and returned to indulgence. Disappointed and disgusted, they abandoned him and travelled away together, convinced he had failed. Now completely alone, Siddhartha walked to a great fig tree, later known as the Bodhi tree. A young grass cutter offered him grass for a seat. He would not rise again until he understood the true nature of suffering. In Buddhist tradition, Mara, the embodiment of fear and illusion, came to stop him. Doubts flooded his mind like storms, but Siddhartha did not move. For 49 days he meditated deeply. Still, Mara demanded proof that he deserved enlightenment. In response, Siddhartha reached down and touched the earth. The earth became his witness, and Mara was defeated. Siddhartha saw countless past lives unfold before him. He saw the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth experienced by all beings. He understood karma, suffering, and the chain of causes that bound living beings to suffering. As a morning star arose above the horizon, Siddhartha achieved enlightenment. He became a Buddha. At first, the Buddha considered remaining silent, believing the truth he had realized was too profound for most people to understand. He journeyed to the deer park, where he found the same ascetics who had abandoned him, and they refused to greet him. But as he approached, something about him had changed. The calmness in his presence, it was unlike anything they had seen before. So the men who had once abandoned him became the first to sit and listen to his teachings. There in the deer park, the Buddha delivered his first teaching. He taught the middle way, the Four Noble Truths, and the Eightfold Noble Path. The five ascetics became his first disciples, forming the first community of Buddhist practitioners. Together, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha became known as the three jewels of Buddhism. For the next 45 years, the Buddha travelled across northern India teaching kings, merchants, beggars, monks, and outcasts. And when, at the age of 80, the Buddha finally approached death, he gathered his followers one final time. His body was failing, but his mind was clear. Among his final words, he spoke, "All conditioned things are subject to decay. Strive on with diligence." Then entering deep meditation one final time, the Buddha passed into parinirvana, the final liberation from the cycle of birth and death. By the time he died, his teachings had already begun spreading far beyond the place he was born. More than 2,000 years later, they still endure. It all began with a prince who stepped beyond the walls of his palace and saw the world as it truly was. The Buddha's story shows us what might happen if we step beyond our own walls and let go of the world we have created for ourselves.